Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, how do I play Commander? Well, there are 4 players with 40 life, who each have 99 card singleton decks plus a legend in the command zone. But how do you really play? Do you just play out your cards and hope for the best? Attack whoever you see open and see if that wins you the game? Or is there strategy to Commander? Is there planning to Commander? And dare I even say it, is there skill to Commander? In this video, we will not be teaching you how to play Commander, but rather how to play Commander. How does one actually become a better Commander player? One who thinks through their turns, who casts spells with purpose, and who reacts to the battlefield and plays the game with intent. The intent to win. Are you playing Commander like that? Well, if not, then you're probably playing it wrong, but don't worry, because this is how to play Commander. Let's begin. Oh my God, what's that? Hands up! This is a stick-up! Give me all your money or I'm gonna paint you red! Oh my God, this is what we're doing now, a talking hot dog man. I need money! I need money to build a computer right now! I only have $700 to my name! Whoa there, calm down, big dog. Sounds like you're in quite a pickle. Are you making hot dog puns right now? I'm serious, I need a computer. Yes, okay. To be frank, you seem very desperate here. Hey, my son's name is Frank, and Frank... That's hilarious. It's not funny. I'm gonna lose custody. Okay, don't get your buns in a twist. I need the money for a new computer so I can electronically submit documents to the court. Did somebody say new computer? Because this video is brought to you today by Micro Center. I love him. Well, then you are gonna love these always amazing deals at Micro Center. Build your own computer with all the toppings you want. Beef it up with a meaty gigabyte motherboard for just $124.99. You could also relish on keeping your computer cool by topping it off with the CPU liquid cooling kit for $94.99. Beef? Relish? My life is in shambles. I might never see Frank again. I'm serious. So am I. Serious about the great deals like this OLED HP laptop for just $699.99. Surely that will have everything you need to get mustardy of your son back. Did you just make up a new word just so you could make a mustard pun? Not me. Now let's get you down to one of our many Micro Center locations before you start sweating through your casing. Frank, no, Daddy's coming. Daddy's coming to your birthday, and I got you Magic Packs because Magic the Gathering products are never marked up above MSRP at Micro Center. I'll be there. I promise I'll be there this time. Whether you're a Magic the Gathering enjoyer or a desperate man in a processed meat suit who lost his little wiener kid, Micro Center has the deals you need to build your top dog computer. He's named after his grandfather. There's so much I'll never get to tell him. Like how great the deals are at Micro Center! The core philosophy of Commander: be proactive. The core principle behind Commander strategy is a simple concept: be proactive. There are so many moving parts in Commander. Tons of cards to keep track of and countless decisions, big and small, to make turn after turn after turn. And all of that can make it very easy to forget this guiding principle in the throes of a wild game. But the more you can remind yourself from the very beginning of the deck building process through the final turn of a game that the goal of Commander is to be proactive, the more likely you are to play well and win games. Commander is a multiplayer, free-for-all game. That means 3 other people at the table will be trying to enact their own game plans. Making it your mission to dictate who gets to what and when is a losing strategy. Unlike in 1v1 Magic, where spending a card of your own to answer one of your opponent's threats is an even 1-for-1 trade, that same 1-for-1 in Commander is really a 1 for 1/3. 2 of your opponents are unaffected by your interaction. And indeed, from their point of view, 2 of their opponent's cards just grabbed each other and jumped off a cliff together without them needing to even lift a finger. Instead, it's better to try and keep pace with your opponent's development by developing your own battlefield. Would you rather counterspell an opponent's mana rock or play out a mana rock of your own? The proactive strategy would be to play out one of your own. That way you're still on equal footing with your opponent who played the rock, and you've also kept up with your other two opponents, possibly even getting ahead if they did not play out a rock. This absolutely does not mean that you should never interact in Commander. Sometimes you'll need to. Just be intentional about when and how you do so, and mindful of how your interaction could slow you down or otherwise cost you. It's still great to be capable of interacting with the board, even if you elect not to, or to wait to a more opportune moment. They say that in Commander, the best interaction is player interaction. In other words, the best way to get rid of your opponent's scary cards is to get rid of your opponent. By winning the game, I mean, not by doing anything to them personally in real life. And winning the game doesn't just happen on accident, remember. It happens because you made it happen, by piloting your deck effectively and with purpose. When you play Commander, you're there to do the thing. You know, the thing. Whatever it is your deck came here to do. Most of the time, that thing is cast the commander that the rest of your deck was built around. Your commander is the one card you know you'll have access to in every game. This means you should approach it like the foundation to the rest of your strategy. The cards you consider for your 99 aren't evaluated in a vacuum. The question isn't, what does this card do, but rather, what does this card do in tandem with my commander? Now, if you want to see this philosophy in action, we recently helped a few viewers of this channel tune up their personal Commander decks. You can check out the first installment of TCC Fixes Your Deck here and find out more about how you might submit your deck for a future fix-up by the TCC staff. Ideally, your deck should be a cohesive, synergistic machine where each moving part plays into your game plan in specific, intentional ways. To accomplish this, you need to know what that game plan is. What do you plan to do in the first few turns to set yourself up for the mid-game? What does a successful battlefield look like? And how do the cards in your deck move you toward that battlefield? Once you have a good idea of what doing the thing means with your Commander deck, now it's time to talk about how to execute your game plan, how to do the thing well. Beginning the game. The best way to get better at playing Commander is to play Commander, but with intention. The first thing to do when you sit down at a new pod is to read your opponent's commanders. Yeah, seriously, take a moment and actually read what your opponent's commanders do. Do you understand what each of them does? If not, ask. Your goal in doing this is to have a broad sense of what your opponent's game plans are going to look like. This will help you identify key cards they play later in the game for what they are, and will also help you later on when it comes time to practice threat evaluation. The next step is to shuffle up and draw your opening 7. Do you need a mulligan? Are you sure? Look again. Whether or not to mulligan is perhaps the most important decision that many Commander players overlook or rush through when they shouldn't. It's almost a cliche at this point. A player keeps a land-light hand and then gets frustrated when they get mana screwed. My sibling in Sarah, you kept the hand. In Commander, the first mulligan is free. In a very real and practical sense, this means you shouldn't be asking yourself whether you should mulligan. You should be trying to justify to yourself why you shouldn't mulligan. Seriously, if the mulligan's free, why shouldn't you mulligan this hand? When there is zero downside to looking at a fully fresh set of 7 cards, there is no excuse not to do so if the first 7 you're looking at isn't a very good hand. And no, I'm too lazy to shuffle my deck again is not a valid excuse. Alright, so what exactly makes a good hand? Remember, we want to be proactive. A proactive hand is one that has early turn plays that advance you toward your desired board state. This can look a lot of different ways and largely depends on your commander, in particular what your commander costs. But by and large, what you're looking for is a turn 2 setup play, a turn 3 follow-up, and ideally something good to do in the mid-game. If you don't have something like that for the mid-game, that's okay. By the time you get there, there's a good chance you'll have drawn something. But if your hand does not have a turn 2 play, you need to mulligan. This is why it's so important to have more 2-drops than any other mana value in your deck. The only way to guarantee a turn 2 play is to have one in your opening hand. You don't have time to dig for one. You also need at least 2 lands in your opening hand, and no more than 4. Never keep a 1-land hand on 7 cards in Commander, not even on your second 7-card hand after a free mulligan. Mulliganing is so much less detrimental than missing your early land drops. I would rather mulligan down to 6 cards than keep a 7-card hand with no 2-mana play. I'd even find a 5-card hand of 3 lands, a 2-mana play, and any other spell than keep a 6-card hand that doesn't do anything till turn 3 or later. Mana Screw is a lot worse than Mana Flood in Commander because at the very least you'll always have access to your commander. You can justify a 5-land hand if, for instance, you have a 2-mana Accelerant, a 4-mana Commander, and your other spell in hand is a high-impact mid-game payoff. But if your 2 spells and your Commander don't help you find more action on schedule, then you should mulligan. Early game. The beginning of a Commander game generally plays out the same way. Everyone is getting their lands into play and their decks up and running. Your strategy for the early game should therefore always be the same. You want to play a land every turn and spend all your mana every turn. The only exception is turn 1. It's great to play a mana dork or other relevant synergy piece on turn 1, but it's also perfectly acceptable to play out a tap land or even an untapped land that you have no use for. But from turn 2 onward, you should be aiming to spend all your mana. If you miss an early land drop or don't use your mana on an early turn and your other 3 opponents do, then you've fallen behind. Remember, you are trying to be proactive. It's hard to be proactive when you immediately fall behind on your board development. When available mana goes unspent, it vanishes forever. As they say about money in life, you can't take it with you. Use it or lose it. If you have multiple tap lands in your opening hand, you'll need to find the least punishing times to play them in those early turns. For example, if you have 2 2-drops and 2 tap lands in your hand, then on turn 1 you can play a tap land. On turn 2, play an untapped land and a 2-drop. Then on turn 3, play another 2-drop and drop your second tapped land. If your deck makes use of Mana Ramp, you should get that Mana Ramp down first and play your cheap non-ramp cards afterward. This comes from the same philosophy behind using all your mana every turn. Leaving a ramp spell in your hand as potential mana for future turns going unused. The majority of commanders want to be cast as quickly as possible, as their decks are built around having them in play. Factor this into your sequencing. If your commander costs 4 and you have another 4-drop in your hand, it's likely that you'll need to find a different window to play out that 4-drop in a way that's mana efficient, such as when you have 6 mana and can pair it with a redundant 2-drop that you weren't able to play earlier. Sequencing and mana usage are the 2 most important skills for the early game. Now, if you have difficulty mastering them, that's okay. Just keep working at it. Once you do get them down, you'll be able to rely on them in perpetuity in every Commander game you ever play again. Mid-game. The mid-game is when Commander gets trickiest. Boards are developed, engines are online, and 1 or more players may even be in striking distance of victory. And who those players are might not be immediately obvious from just a cursory look around the board. There are 3 main concepts to keep in mind when navigating a tricky mid-game: threat assessment, resource management, and avoiding overcommitment. I actually have an entire video dedicated to threat assessment, as I feel it is one of the most important skills in Commander and one that often goes overlooked. But in short, threat assessment is the skill of identifying who is winning on a given board state, as well as who is primed to step into the lead at the first opportunity. Though Commander is a 4-player free-for-all game, it's also kind of a 3-on-1 game where whoever the table agrees is the threat becomes the arch enemy that everyone else gangs up on. But this doesn't mean that the person who is assigned the role of the threat really is the threat. Nor does it mean that one of the other players in the de facto alliance won't turn on the other 2 if it ever benefits them to do so. Like I said, I have an entire video dedicated to threat assessment, which goes into great detail on the subject, and I really hope you check out. I've got it linked in this video's description, but for the purposes of this video, the key point I want to drive home is that there is never only a single threat at the table. Many factors contribute to someone being a threat. They could have a wide board of scary creatures, yes, but they could also possess a card advantage or mana production engine, a stocked graveyard, or an incomplete combo primed to pop off at a moment's notice. Especially in bracket 2 and 3 games, the player who gets out ahead first is often not the person who winds up on top at the end. Meanwhile, the player who bides their time and develops just enough to keep pace, but not so much to attract a spotlight, often winds up wearing the crown when the dust settles. I spoke early in this video about the pitfalls of interaction in Commander. Those still apply here when handling a threat, but if someone is poised to run away with the game, then you need to do something about that. The goal is to spend as few resources of your own as possible to deal with the problem on board. If you can encourage someone else to answer it for everyone else, then that's the ideal scenario. You should also consider whether or not the problem card is actually a problem for you specifically, or if your own plan for winning the game could allow you to ignore it. Not only would this save you from having to spend a card and mana unnecessarily, but it could even buy you favor from the so-called threat that you can use to your advantage. Knowing how and when to spend your cards is the skill of resource management. There's nothing more frustrating in the middle of a Commander game than running out of things to do. You're empty-handed and effectively eliminated from the game unless you get a lucky draw step. Now, sometimes this just happens in Magic, but sometimes you can avoid getting to this point through careful resource management. In other words, don't just play out your cards as you draw them. Consider your options for how and when you play them and what the implications of each choice are. If you have a Rite of Harmony in your graveyard but only one creature in hand, should you flash it back and cast the creature, hoping to hit another one off a single draw step? Or is it better to hold back, wait a turn, and not only have another look at an additional creature to help you pop off, but also gain access to one additional mana for your big turn? Maximizing the value you extract from the cards in your hand helps prevent you from running out of gas unnecessarily. This means moving away from the strategy you employed in the early game about using all your mana every turn. In the middle of the game, you can afford to let mana go unspent if, and I want to stress if, it means getting more value out of your spells on a future turn. Thinking carefully, tricky I know, about whether or not to actually cast your spells in hand also helps you avoid overcommitment. The multiplayer nature of Commander means board wipes are plentiful. If a board wipe hits and your hand doesn't have a follow-up play that you've been holding back for rebuilding purposes, then you're effectively eliminated from the game until you can claw your way back into it with top decks, if you ever do. Before you play out the last few creatures in your hand, stop and check in for a moment. Do you really need to have them in play right now? What are you giving up value-wise by waiting? What do other players' boards look like? Is a sweeper needed to prevent one player from running away with the game? If so, does it look like someone is setting up to cast one? If a player passed with unused mana and cards still in hand, that could be a sign that they're planning to cast a board wipe soon. There's also a secondary benefit to avoiding overcommitment, and that is that you look like less of a threat if you save some gas in hand. This sets you up to become the player who rises up to the top after a flurry of interaction knocks the initial lead back down to earth. Endgame. When life totals get low, boards get wide, and the end of the game draws near, the stakes for your decisions get a lot higher. A bad attack or a missed attack can be the difference maker between winning the game yourself or ceding your rightful place atop the throne to one of your less worthy opponents. When you've reached the end game, you should be constantly asking yourself what you would need to do to eliminate each of your opponents. The answer might not be obvious. It might require a non-lethal attack this turn, so you can send in with a lethal attack next turn. You might lose some creatures in the process, but that doesn't matter if the move leads to you winning. All concern over resource management goes out the window in the end game. All that matters is reducing your opponents to 0 life. You don't get bonus points for ending the game with cards in hand. And trust me, nobody wants to hear how you, quote-unquote, still had all Ds. Unused cards at the end of the game are no different from unused mana at the beginning of the game. You can't take them with you. The nice thing about the end of the game is that the game shrinks down from limitless possibilities to an extremely limited number of possibilities. Any play at all that doesn't help you kill your opponents can be immediately discarded. You're trying to count to whatever life total your combined opponents have. That's how much damage you need to deal. Total up the amount of damage you're capable of dealing and subtract the toughness of your opponent's blockers. Can you clear those blockers? Can any of your creatures gain evasion? If so, can you make those creatures deal more damage? Every card in play in your hand and in your graveyard is a tool at your disposal to cross the finish line. You'll often want to leave an unthreatening opponent alive on death's door rather than finish them off, so that you can focus instead on the player who is actually capable of killing you. Of course, if that player seems like they'll use their remaining time left on Earth to get in your way, then by all means send lethal damage at them sooner rather than later. But if they aren't an obstacle to you, then they could be a resource. At the very least, they could be a deterrent, preventing your more threatening opponent from devoting 100% of their resources towards you. I mean, if they swing out on you, they may leave themselves open to dying from the other player. If your current cards are incapable of getting the job done, then the only option left is to dig for something more useful. Don't spend mana and resources on a lost cause. Shift your focus to the top of your deck, looking at as many cards as you can to find a way to win. If the only thing that will save you is a fling, then dig for a fling. If you just need a removal spell or a card that can give one of your creatures unblockable, dig for that. And if your only hope is completing a combo, then that should be your goal. Again, your vision should narrow around only the cards and plays that could conceivably lead to victory. Everything else is just noise. At the end of the day, Commander is just a game, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to win a game that's designed to produce a winner. And hopefully this video, as well as our many other videos on the subject, have been of some help to you to become a better Commander player, to learn not just how to play Commander, but how to play Commander, really play it better than you did before. You can, of course, check out all of these videos by clicking on the eye or linked in this video's description.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Oops, it's Shuffle Up and Play. Today, we're playing Oops All Commander decks. Sam, Cal, and Cosmonaut Marcus have built Oops All decks, but what have their decks oopsed into?
Gev Scaled Scorch says, whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev deals 1 damage to target opponent. I'm just gonna X that out because we don't have any lizards. Good luck guessing my theme. So I'll give you a hint.
Loyal Inventor. It's actually Alexander Graham Bell in this.
Oh my god.
Let's go.
Come
I get the theme.
Marcus.
It's Oops All Magic properties.
I'm on the battle bus.
I like the humongous frown.
It's gotta be Oops All Ram.
You guys like that?
It's gotta be Oops All Ram.
Prof, this is your chance to stand on principles, sacrificing your own power by removing SpongeBob from Magic Forever. Do it.